Brilliant. Welcome back, everybody. I have a feeling we have all our speakers for the third and final session here. Just checking. Yes, brilliant. So yes, welcome everybody to the third and final session of today's webinar. It's been a bit of a long one, but we do have 3 amazing speakers still to go. This third and final session is titled Cargo Bike Services for Businesses. So this is really about companies that are out there providing the cycle logistics type services for businesses to consider using, as opposed to a van instead, and have to get your own cargo bike, of course. Our first guest is actually from Edinburgh. It's Alex Fitzhowle from Farr Deliveries, based in Edinburgh. They were the award-winning business from Cycling Scotland's conference last year. Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Brilliant. Yep, can hear you great. Do you want to try sharing your screen now? Oh, brilliant. I see you too.
Hi there. Let's give this a go.
Just make sure everything's working before we get underway. Your screen? No?
No, apologies. 1 second.
It's okay. Give it a couple of tries. If not, we can always come back around.
It's asking me to quit and reopen.
Okay. Well, how about this? Chris, are you available right now? Chris Dixon?
Oh, thanks. Hi.
Are you all right to step in briefly whilst Alex just has a quick restart?
I mean, we can do me first. That's
perfect. This is improvising.
All right.
I just have one moment. Just sorry, Alex. If you have any other issues, just message me in the chat. But hopefully we'll get you up and running. Otherwise, Chris. So Chris is from Pedal Me in London. He's a director of training there at Pedal Me. Going to tell us a little bit about what that training actually is, the professionalization of cargo bike sort of riders and logistics. So Chris, the floor is all yours. I'm looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I don't have a formal presentation. I just have, an ability, hopefully, to talk to you about what we do and why. I think it's important to set out a bit of the context of Pedal Me. Every cargo bike operator is different, approaching the problem in different ways for different contexts. I think Alex in Edinburgh has different challenges that we do in London. Beata doing Cargo Dale has different issues, different problems, being a more remote place with less density and that kind of thing. But we started out in London. We've only operated in London, and London's quite the tough nut to crack. There's a lot of size there, a lot of scale there, and trying to fill that and provide a service to as many people as you can as possible is a difficult and challenging thing. But just to talk about a little bit, to establish the context of our training, is probably to talk about where we came from in the first place. So Pedal Me kind of formed out of what was known, and is still known, in fact, as the Camden Community Cycling Project. So that started running in 2015. Pedal Me kind of folded out of that in 2017. But what that was basically a mass cycle training organization that was working with hard to reach communities in estates in the borough of Camden. It's still running today, taken on by my training colleague at Pedal Me, James Holloway. And it was essentially get bikes into estates and offer cycle training in situ out of the school context. We needed to move a lot of bikes in order to kind of cover the demand that project created. We were using vans initially, and in inner city London, as pretty much everyone here knows, well, motors basically are failing. They create congestion, and it's impossible to do kind of 2 key things that you're looking for in deliveries: deliver expediently and deliver to an accurate time point. we were failing to arrive on time in vans. So it gave us the ability to carry, but it didn't give us the ability to serve within a narrow time point window. So we started using cargo bikes. So we're using bikes to move bikes, and that enabled us to solve those problems. Basically, we could arrive on time, unpack, provide our service, give everyone the full 2 hours of our time each and every kind of day of the week after schools, pack up, get home again, and get everyone finished on time, which was important as well, both from a service point of view and economically for the project that we were trying to do. So we wouldn't be paying arbitrarily until 5:30 on some evenings and 7 on others. So, you know, cargo bikes helped us solve that problem. But then we had a problem where demand was outstripping supply. We had to move more bikes. So in typical Chris Lo-Fi style, I'm going to show you basically what we were doing in order to provide that. Hope you all can see that. That's me on an e-assist Gazelle towing 25 bicycles attached to a trailer. And this is what it looked like from the side. Those are basically bikes stacked and then tied tightly and firmly into position using nothing but bicycle inner tubes. It's a particularly lo-fi, but really, really effective solution. So we thought, well, we've got something here we can bring to market. We can beat vans and move a shed load of staff and offer the accuracy of delivery time to market. So Ben Knowles split off a little bit from the community project and started working on that, getting that going, whilst I continued with the training program. And so Pedal Me kind of started off trying to offer a passenger service. We thought, I don't know, let's offer a service that can take on Uber. So we needed to provide a bike which enabled people to sit down and be and just be moved from place to place. And that, by happy accident, gave us this incredible platform for moving all sorts of different things. Boxes, which you typically see on cargo bikes, are quite limited by the volume that they can take. Shapes, sizes, all sorts of things are quite difficult. But with the Pedal Me kind of frame, we can move a fridge freezer, which is what Boris claimed when he launched like the gear change project, that you couldn't move a cargo bike, a fridge freezer by cargo bike. And you can definitely do that. So yeah, the question we were asking was how do we move as many taxi journeys and latterly, you know, vans as possible and bring this clear and apparent benefit that we'd found in using cargo bikes to as many people as possible. And that kind of led us to ask a few different questions. One of our phrases, kind of on our guiding mission statements, is if it can be moved by bike, it should be moved by bike. And that way you're opening yourself up to eliminate as many excuses as there are at the service level for van journeys and taxi journeys as well. In order to get that message across, we needed to be visible and grab as much of attention as we could that was possible. And by moving weird, wacky and wonderful things on bicycles, you do that. You become very visible. People's heads turn when you're moving 2 office chairs and a filing cabinet on a bicycle. It just can't help but draw attention. And when you combine that with pink, you've got something that's quite attention grabbing. But thirdly, you know, the question was like, how do we assure people that this is a safe and low risk solution? There are, as have been alluded to, I'm sure in a number of the presentations, there are obstacles to that. And one of those is trust. How can you trust bicycles? If this is a tricky one. Cycling is fundamentally mistrusted in Britain. There is little in the way of kind of compulsory training, and there's very much a kind of us and them situation with cyclists being within the out group. It's not the particularly popular modal share, and that's linked to things like aspiration, convenience, protection from weather. It's what everyone else does. There's all sorts of mainstream thinking and ideas surrounding the motor vehicle that kind of just have this sort of pretty soft but very much tangible barrier to either stopping people from riding bikes themselves, or indeed using the service that we and other cargo bike operators can provide. There are many people in decision-making positions within businesses who have that inherent mistrust. There is a lack of awareness in what's out there. There's a lack of belief in what's possible that can be done. And we still see this every day when we're turning up with a new client, and we'll get like a number of boxes or whatever of files that we can put on our bike, and they say, are you sure you can take 3 of these? Well, we can probably take 15, and that's fine. Let's give it a try. And we can, and we pull it off, and seeing is believing, and then we build from there. But getting people to take that initial step of saying, well, we're going to try this is quite hard to overcome. Getting businesses to change who they use for logistics is difficult enough. If you've had enough of a lack of performance or communication or whatever from one operator, then you really have a market that can only offer you very similar like for like solutions, where the sale is, oh, we won't do that, we'll do it better like this. And then you end up with the same problem, which is inherently vans are stuck in traffic and they get things, and they're just slow. So we've got bikes, they can bypass that. But yeah, you struggle to get that belief and that awareness up to decision-making positions. It's hard enough, as I say, to change who you use, but then also changing how you do it and what you're doing as a business is really, really risky. Notionally, it isn't. We know it isn't, but it is if you're not on the inside of what is a very small and still very burgeoning industry. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that work is happening. You know, obviously, Ollie has spoken a lot about the Bikes for Business program, which is excellent in trying to get people to try the vehicles themselves, and they're working, as he says, with loading bays and whatever else. But there's just so much cultural mistrust of people on bicycles. I don't like to use the word cyclists or cycling, but just bicycles in general, that it's difficult to overcome that suspicion. The problem is that so much of that suspicion is actually fair, because the standard of cycling can leave a lot to be desired. Many people using the roads and using bicycles are operating within their own bubble, not communicating particularly well with other road users, regardless of what vehicles they're in. And, you know, you get other road users on bikes just with their head down trying to survive, which doesn't really kind of engender any further trust in using bikes for your logistics. So that's one of the big obstacles that we're trying to overcome with training. Now, what we do at PedalMe is we train people to use the platform that we have to the maximum of its potential. So we look at weight, volume, shape, size, all sorts of different things within our training. That training has been ratified by City and Guilds. So we're part of the City and Guilds Assured program. Now, what that is it's not a qualification. It's not a City and Guilds course. It's simply that City of Guilds have looked at our course. We've sent them our syllabus. They've come and seen our training methods, and they've dug into what it is that we're trying to do and how we're executing it, and said, that is of a professional standard. And as far as we are aware, that is unique in this industry. It's one of the things that we felt was absolutely necessary to be able to start building trust, not just training people well, but saying that someone else has actually checked our homework and is consistently checking our homework and saying that is good enough. That's also necessary because of the risk that we are engaged in within our business as well. It is notionally risky to take passengers. And if you are taking a passenger on a bicycle without having any training, well, that is risky, and that's fine if that's your own risk, but it's not really acceptable to expect a third party to assume that risk for their goods without having had a certain amount of mitigation. And so, yeah, our training is a risk mitigation exercise for us as a business, but also to assure other businesses that we are safe enough to use, and not just for something of this size, but for many things of this size all at once. And fridge freezers and office chairs and cabinets, and also a moped on the back of a trailer once, which was quite amusing. That's so that we're looking at obstacles, and we have, you know, belief and trust, and then we also have another obstacle, kind of like on the stimulation of demand side as well. So there are, you know, as we know, there's the energy savings trust grant scheme, which is great at getting industries to maybe try a bike out and cover that risk for them. But how do you actually use it? What do you use it for? And how does subsidizing an asset actually kind of train you how to do the job that you need it to do? It doesn't. It leaves that up to you. It leaves it up to the business, up to the individual to work out for themselves. And that can be a big barrier as well, because, well, operationally, you have your way of working, and has been alluded to before, getting that change made is actually quite taxing for a business. Where's the time? Where's the ability to think? Where's the space to do that? The leap of faith that you need to kind of to make that change for yourself. So this is where a subsidy on services would be really useful, because then you're able to outsource that risk as a business. There's also the question of your own staff as well. So for instance, if you're a business that has their own in-house logistics and you use vans, and that's already a cost of your business and it's paid for by the product that you sell or whatever else, then you already have an inherent culture within your business of motor vehicle use. And people don't like change within their own businesses. Sorry, mate, we're about to now get you riding a cargo bike instead of using a van. No, thanks. I don't really know what one of those is, and I'm not sure how to do it. And I'm not really convinced that I'll be able to do most of the things I do, and you're making my life more uncomfortable. So, you know, there's a cultural resistance within companies who are using vans as well. You know, you've got things interfering with jobs, and for some, it's just, well, for most, it's just simply not a consideration that they can take yet. It's not mainstream enough. It's too difficult. So that's the context. Now, that leads me on to kind of why we train. So we train to build trust, and we train to build skills within our company that we intend to and do offer at a small level to companies who want to buy into us. Now, breaking down what that training does, it teaches you how to ride the bike at its extremes. So we go in a very granular level into how the bike operates, its foibles, its pitfalls, and how to mitigate the risk that the bike itself creates for you. That takes about 4 hours over two split sessions, and it focuses on control, how you start the bike, how you stop the bike, how to handle the bike at weight, what it can do, what it can't do. And it gets someone in an off-road space to explore all of the map. It's not about accessibility or making that bike accessible. It's about taking it to the maximum level of its performance and allowing someone to operate that vehicle at that level of performance with a kind of confidence and autonomy, knowing that they are able to handle that. We have riders who are 5'2" and 55 kilos using the methods of bike control that we teach, who can move 2.5 times their own body weight without issue. And that is incredibly powerful for our service, and incredibly powerful for us being able to move as many vehicle journeys as possible. It goes back to this adage that if it can be moved by bike, it should be moved by bike. And our modus operandi makes sure that we're moving as much as is possible. It's pass or fail. So you can't move from one stage until you've completed the stage before. And that's unique in training as well, as far as I understand in this country. It's pass or fail. Now, that's just the off-road, that's just the bike control. We then look at operating professionally in the road space. So cycle training is available, through national standards, through bikeability, and it's good. It's a good thing. It encourages modal shift away from bicycles. It's opt-in, but that's a big key problem with it. It's opt-in. So the difference with training professionally is that that training stands in the way of a job, and it allows us to access people typically who think they're really good cyclists, and then they might have excellent bike control. They probably have a lot of experience on the roads, but our on-road training basically breaks down how to act professionally. So not just how you position yourself, but really how you're communicating with other road users, how to make sure that you can engineer space, time, respect, get to do the things that you need to do in order to pilot the bike safely and to get it moving as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, that's not about speed or brute pace, because when you're moving large loads, that's not what the game is about, and we're already beating traffic. But it's about making sure that we get the respect we need to be able to operate as well. Thumbs up to people, proper eye contact, making sure that there's a favors for favors thing operating, acknowledging when you've done something right for someone and when they've done something right for you. So it's positive reinforcement, and it's empowering all of the soft skills that mitigate the risks of operating in the road. So we'll have a roadcraft session, and we'll have a navigation session, so that we can check people are able to use waypoints, navigate by looking up and seeing that the Shard is over there, so I must be going that way because the London Eye is over there and I want to bisect the two. Which bridge am I going to use? How am I going to solve these problems? Because we still haven't got a piece of software out there that can eliminate that human need to navigate things. There isn't really software out there that can solve our navigation problems the way we need them to be solved. So at the end of that, there's an assessment, and that is where a rider who's gone through each and successfully passed each training component is then assessed. They carry me or another trainer, and they are followed by another trainer, so that we're getting basically an objective viewpoint of that person's riding. We can feel how they're riding the bike and whether they're controlling it well enough or not. And then from the rear, we can see how they're operating within traffic and how they're communicating. and how they're engineering favors and space and where they're positioning themselves, and then giving them an upsum and proper feedback on that, and then failing them if necessary in order to retrain and reassess. That process demands that a trainee be good enough to be able to operate the bike up to 150 kilograms. And that's vital for being able to offer the consumer a consistent service, because what you can't do with cargo bikes in the self-employed area, where risk is set to the individual, is offer a consistency of service, which means that one rider might turn up at a job and be able to do it. Another rider might turn up with the same equipment and just not feel comfortable with it. And that's where you get vans being used, because that company will then send a van to do a job. Well, actually, it was possible to do it by bike. And that's a problem, because that doesn't remove the need for vans. And that's what we're all here to do. So I hope there really that I've just sort of given a decent and concise sort of précis of what our training does, why it exists, and yeah, I welcome any questions that you have about it.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks for stepping in suddenly there. I really appreciate that. No, really, really interesting. Please stick around. And just to remind everybody, there's obviously still the chats available if anybody has any specific questions for Chris or for Alex, who's coming up now, or for Harry, who will be from Zedify at the end of this session. Alex, are you able to hear me and share your screen now?
Yep, I'll give it a go this time.
Brilliant.
Screen share.
So just a quick introduction again for Alex. Alex is from Farr Deliveries, Edinburgh. Farr won the Scottish Cycling Champion Business Award last year from Cycling Scotland, which is an ECF member. Brilliant. I think we can see part of your screen.
Yeah, give me a second.
Fantastic. Yep, the floor is yours, and away you go, Alex.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. I hope you're all doing really well. The first time I've done a presentation in a number of years, and definitely since the pandemic began, so bear with me. My name is Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of Farr Deliveries. We are probably one of the youngest cargo bike operators, definitely in Scotland, and definitely at this event. We're one of very few cyclo-logistics companies operating in Scotland. Over this short presentation, I hope to sort of outline some of the challenges we faced, as well as giving a bit of a background of where we came from. So first of all, we're all familiar with cargo bikes, I hope, by this point. I just sort of wanted to throw that up, and if this were a live Q&A, I would have asked what people's first impressions were. I think the obvious answer being that it's a bullet made by Harriet. For us, that is our general bike of choice for almost all the work we do. But the other answer, which everybody has thoroughly explained today, is that it is the future of logistics. In our case, urban logistics, but as has been highlighted, operators like Cargodale and others are proving that they are useful in non-urban contexts as well, which is awesome. Clearly, I'm not the only person that thinks so. There were, hundreds of people signed into this, which is amazing, and the news over the last couple of years has supported that in amazing ways, including some about ourselves, which has been very fantastic for us as a young company. The reasons why have been detailed quite extensively throughout today, so I won't go in too much. Obviously, our cities, kind of particularly in the UK, present a big challenge, and they are definitely built for motorized transport, primarily, and even with there being some change and some development over the last few years and the last decade, there's still a long way to go. we see cargo bikes definitely as the way forward, and coming out on top in almost every metric, efficiency and of course in their benefits to the planet. We think that within cities, they are much more convenient. We can get closer to the door at both ends of any journey. We can use parts of city infrastructure that obviously are only for cycles and buses. And that, particularly in Edinburgh, is massively beneficial, making us faster. Using some statistics here generated by the organisation organising this. So thank you very much for that. That link is accurate there. As we all know, yeah, there's efficiency savings to be made, as well as economic and environmental. Otherwise, I'm repeating a lot of what was said earlier. So that's obviously, yeah, a very brief summary of kind of why we do what we do. I'm going to go to a video now, which was recorded at the Cycling Scotland conference that Ben mentioned, and the co-founder of Farr, David, will give you a little bit of an introduction about us. Hopefully you can hear the
I don't think there's any audio right now, so I think could you just quickly pause it and try to share your screen?
Reshare my screen.
Yeah, I should give you the option to share audio in the bottom left of the share screen box when it comes up.
I definitely did click that. Anything?
I'm afraid not, no.
There are subtitles. Should I just crack on?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I think. Apologies for that. Apologies for the mute rendition of that, but hopefully I can move on to the next slide. Perfect. Can we all, Ben, is that audio fine now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So this first slide here in selection of images are really from the first couple weeks of the existence of our company. We're incredibly lucky to be able to engage with a cargo bike library here in Edinburgh, which has existed for a number of years. I think I first engaged with it in about 2016. It's run by Sustrans Scotland, and it was one of the first of its kind in Scotland for sure. I'm not sure about the wider UK. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to them for giving us access to some bikes during that first lockdown. Myself and the co-founders found ourselves out of work due to the pandemic and lockdown restrictions. I myself was working in the events industry and found myself with a lot of time on my hands last summer. We needed a way to support ourselves whilst also doing something meaningful. The business was born essentially out of necessity, but has remained out of popularity. Our idea was rooted in service to the community and wanting to help local businesses reach those stuck at home. We started off delivering for a handful of local independent businesses and connecting them directly to their customers, a lot of them offering a delivery service for the first time ever, which definitely makes us a little different to some of the other people that you've heard from today, being that that initial conversation of getting people to change their habits was a little easier under the circumstances because there was so much change happening, and there was definitely a sense that people just needed help and needed things to happen quickly, and we had the sort of skills and means and time to help and do that. We quickly realized the potential of the idea and focused on creating an accessible, affordable and reliable and innovative service for Edinburgh. We also, the photo in the bottom right was outside what was an event space and became a distribution point for community meals. I helped start a group of organizations working together to cook and distribute meals for those experiencing food insecurity, a lot of whom for the first time losing their jobs in the pandemic, and over 6 months during those first lockdowns, we delivered over 80,000 meals, mostly by cargo bike, to individuals isolating at home. Next slide. As you can see, we got more bikes. This is me on the first bike that we were able to sort of purchase outright a few months in, when it had been proven that the demand was there and we were in it for the long haul. The idea took off, and inspired by other attendees of this conference, Zedify and Pedal Me, as well as Pedal Post in Oxford and Bike Expressing in Copenhagen, and a number of others who spoke to us and took time to show us the ropes. We grew the service, expanded the number of bikes, the number of riders, and now work with over 100 businesses every month, and that's doing regular deliveries. Most of those use us every week for a variety of services. This is our area of coverage. We're not a national company, we are strictly local. We operate essentially within the city limits, the bypass area of Edinburgh. Within that, we are able to do a whole lot of deliveries, working with a whole lot of people and replacing a lot of van and car journeys. Really loved Chris's adage from his speech, and that is something we've definitely sort of lived by and are attempting to persuade. We really want, the cargo bike to be the de facto mode of transport. And for those who aren't able to own or ride one themselves, then we are there with an accessible and affordable service. This is kind of a very basic summary of kind of our core services. We do a lot of multi-drop local distribution for parcels and other parcels, food and drink, clothes, books, everything on the hit list that was in one of the previous speeches. Only mile deliveries is strictly kind of the term that a lot of you will be familiar with. We don't only work with businesses, we work with individuals as well, and you can order all through our website and have anything moved within the city at any time. What we have focused on a lot recently is directly replacing vans for our customers. So if they were using us for their local home delivery. Over the last year, they have looked at how their own internal deliveries can be done differently. And there's a large number of companies who used to use us for one service and now use us instead of their own van, or in addition to a van, which covers a wider delivery area that we're not able to service. That is the part of the business that I'm sort of most passionate about. And I think it has a really, really high impact, not only on the city, but also for those businesses. And that's really important to me. Again, following on from what Chris said, moving weird and wonderful things around the city by bike is a really great way of getting behavior change and some attention. So this is Andre. He needed to go from one pub to another pub for perfectly legitimate reasons. And as you can imagine, yeah, I got quite a lot of attention. We make thousands of deliveries a week and offsetting, you know, tons and tons of CO2 emissions over the year. We have created the first dedicated, we believe to be the first dedicated cargo bike hub in Scotland. This was only made possible through our partner organisation, Cargo Bike Movement, which is a Scottish charity, which again started around the same time as us, and they are focused on community outreach, as well as surplus food collections and donations by cargo bike. They are currently beginning to offer short-term loans and make that an accessible service in Edinburgh. So if anybody is interested in that, I can put you directly in touch with them. That was founded by Scottish Active Nation Commissioner Lee Craigie and Alice Lemkes. And they cohabitate this space in a super productive way because we share the same goals. This section again has probably been covered a bit. One of the things that we come up against a lot is a lack of understanding about what we're doing and what is possible, why we're doing it. I think when people say bike delivery, these are kind of the two things that jump to mind. You do sort of have to see it to believe it a lot of the time. People really tend to think of one of these two images here. We are still having to convince people about what is possible. That it has gotten a lot easier over the last 2 years with Cargo Bike Movement, with Zedify operating in the city, with ourselves and a number of local businesses who have cargo bikes as part of their individual fleets and operations. It is definitely becoming more normalized. There are a lot of parents and families with bikes in the city. So it is definitely getting significantly easier. And obviously, I just want to, this is obviously the reality. It's a very serious service with real potential for moving anything and everything. If it can be moved by bike, it should be moved by bike. Thank you for that, Chris. I'm keeping that. Some of our challenges that we face in what we're doing, where we supplement deliveries done by a national courier, or we're attempting to replace deliveries done by a national courier. We are somewhat hamstrung by the concept of free delivery. There is no such thing. Free delivery hides a lot of exploitation within the industry, and our prices having to compete with those national couriers is a real challenge. There are many businesses who are very happy to pay a premium, not that our services are at a premium, but that the price is not the primary motivation. And we really love it when we engage with those businesses, because we've literally been told to charge more sometimes by businesses who are invested in the change and in the future, which is incredibly gratifying. encouraging. One of the issues we've come up against as a new company starting out during the pandemic was funding. Also, as people who were new to the industry, that was also a challenge. The available sort of cargo bike loans, some of them were limited to companies that were already existing, and so as a new operator we weren't eligible for certain grants and loans, whereas if we were an existing van fleet we would have been able to get quite a significant amount of funding from that funder almost immediately to replace vans rather than being able to start what we wanted to, even although obviously everything we do replaces vans. That has improved obviously, and the other speakers before and after me, PedalMe, have had great success with crowdfunding, and Zedify have obviously had incredible success with angel investment, and I really look forward to seeing what happens there over the next few years, and seeing what amazing things they do. Finally, I think the challenge that we'll all see no matter where you live is the infrastructure, and I think that word can mean a lot for us. The infrastructure for repair and maintenance and recovery is pretty lacking, even in a city with many cargo bike dealers and suppliers and places you can get it maintained. If you're out doing a delivery at the edge of the city and you get you know, a flat tire or an electrical fault on a bike carrying 150 kilograms, it is a challenge, and lots of people have risen to that challenge in different ways. That's one kind of infrastructure challenge that you don't have as much with vans. You can get recovered and a rental out pretty quickly, and that does not translate to cargo or bike logistics yet. Hopefully it will. City infrastructure in Edinburgh, we kind of have a perfect city for cycle logistics, but also an imperfect one. It's dense, it's hilly, very cobbled, but the denseness of the population and the tightness of the roads make cargo bikes really the only natural solution to its congestion problems. And we've really loved the engagement we've had from local business, the engagement we've had from local authority, and the engagement we've had from transport planners as well, to kind of see what we've learned over the last couple of years and how we can integrate into future projects, as well as advise on infrastructure that is going in, and that's been amazing, and will help us moving forward and anyone operating in Edinburgh with bikes. That was all. If this isn't going to play audio, then it might not be worth showing that, Ben. And I might just go to the next slide if I can. Yep. Thank you very much. That was a sort of, I hope, a brief summary of who we are and what we do. My name's Alex Fitzhowle, and if you have any questions, that's my contact information there, and I'll stick around for the Q&A.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Alex. Yes, just to let everybody know, there's been a few requests in the chat as well for contact details. We will, with the permission of the panelists, obviously send out contact details following this event with some more information as to what took place today. So don't stress too much if you've not been able to write anything down. That's absolutely fine. Alex, thank you for the presentation. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. We did share a link to the video in the chat as well, so if people want to check that out afterwards, they're more than welcome to, with full glorious sound. Harry, are you available right now?
Hi, yes, hello.
So just a quick introduction. This is Harriet Hurd from Zedify, marketing manager there. We're gonna have a quick final presentation, and then we'll move into our final Q&A before we wrap up the session today. Harriet, the floor is all yours.
Amazing, thank you. Right, let me try and do this. Can you see my screen?
See the screen? And
yeah.
Now we can see it presented, yes.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much for having Zedify here today. It's great to be here, and yeah, I really enjoyed both of those presentations. It's great to hear about. Yeah, I think as Chris mentioned, there's many operators in the sector now, and each approaching it in a slightly different way and approaching slightly different problems with their solution. Here, I'm going to give a bit of an overview about Zedify's model, what it does to create better cities, and the benefits that businesses can expect to get from switching to this kind of model. I'm going to talk about some of the kinds of businesses that we work with, and then some of the measurable impacts that you can get from switching to a model like this. So first up, I think this has been kind of covered a lot today already, so I'll skim over it. But just, you know, all of the problems that are kind of happening in the urban landscape stem from having an outdated logistics system in place. And, you know, that's regional distribution centres with fleets of diesel vans going in to serve the city. And with the rapidly growing levels of e-commerce that we're seeing, it's about 5 billion parcels that are delivered each year in the UK. We've got cities that just can't cope. They're at breaking point. It's not scalable. And we're only going to see that on the rise, I think, in terms of the numbers of deliveries that are happening. I think the World Economic Forum, we use a figure that it's going to rise, delivery vehicles are going to rise by 36% by 2030. So if we want to create these amazing, wonderful, thriving, livable cities, then we've got to get a handle on the freight landscape. So I'm just going to take you through two of the conventional approaches to urban logistics. You have here a same-day point-to-point service. Lots of different strands there, crisscrossing all over the city. It looks a bit like a plate of spaghetti, we often say. And, you know, you've got no consolidation here happening here. Often it's half-empty vans, as we all know, and that has a hugely detrimental impact on the city. Here we've got a next day last mile service. So that's those out of town regional hubs. You've got long stem delivery model, linear routes. There's lots of issues here. There's lots of negative impacts for the city. You know, no consolidation happening, you know, multiple vehicles visiting the same neighborhoods. But there's also issues in terms of the service quality for the end consumer as well, because often there's not very much flexibility around time windows, for example, because, you know, the vehicle's following a linear route and stuck in traffic to be able to do that. And, you know, in terms of negative impacts for the city as well, maybe that's somebody that's employed from outside of the city. So you're not offering those kind of local employment opportunities that you might get with a model like Zedify. So how does our model help? Well, there are three main elements really here. One is, the first one is our micro hubs. So we have these based at the edge of the city. And what they do is they act as gateways for all of the different kinds of deliveries that we do, whether that's inbound, maybe we're working with a retailer or a parcel carrier that want to deliver goods in the city, a local business like, you know, a coffee roastery or an independent retailer, a florist, that kind of thing. And then anything outbound. So that might be retail returns or recycling, or perhaps businesses that want to ship elsewhere in the city, but they want to use a zero emission service for their first mile. And having those hyper-local micro hubs, that is what enables us to use and remode to cargo bikes. Obviously, you know, everyone that's here today, you know, likewise, we are known for our fleets of cargo bikes. But I think it's important to say that it's not just the bikes themselves. It's the kind of three elements here that make the model work and make it efficient. People have talked about the benefits of cargo bikes as the model for delivering in cities. So I won't dwell on that too much, just to say that they are, you know, the most effective means of making deliveries for a huge amount of freight that's happening in cities. And finally, it's about a tech system. You know, lots of logistics tech systems out there, but they're designed to serve those traditional, conventional models. So we have built our own, and we're building that out and making it work specifically for this model, which is the hyperlocal micro hubs, the consolidation, focus on the consolidation, and then route optimizations for using cargo bikes. And that's to give a really good, amazing service for, you know, our business clients, but also those end consumers. So they get an amazing service, one that's better than using traditional means. So what can people expect if we're going to shift to a model like Zedify's? What kind of benefits can they expect to get? I think a lot of this is around delighting customers, like providing a really amazing service for the people that are receiving the goods at the end. And that's about being able to offer things like flexible time slots, but it's also about having a really amazing group of riders who provide that service. We've talked about zero emission deliveries. I think people have made the point probably already today, but it's not just about how they compare to diesel vans. Compared to EVs too, there's a huge, hugely better saving in terms of carbon. And then we are a living wage employer. I think it's common within the industry and within the sector to focus on providing a service that's different than, you know, the status quo, and that is the right thing to do. But it also has huge benefits for the service quality you're able to give, because it's about creating kind of happy riders that have the, you know, the feeling to be able to go and give a good service. And then we talked about cost as well, but I think because of the focus on consolidation, that's where you know, a model like Zedify is able to offer service which is really highly competitive. So I think often there might be a perception that it's going to cost a lot more, but often that's not the case. And just to sum up, we talked about the kind of services that we're able to offer, and that was just spoken about on Alex's slides as well. But just to sum up here, you've got your only mile deliveries, which is anything that happens kind of within the city, collected in the city and delivered there. Last mile final delivery, which is delivering for those retailers and parcel carriers, acting as that gateway. And then first mile collection, which is picking up within the city, taking it back to our hub and preventing, you know, for example, we work with a battery recycler who operate, you know, all of those collection points in local supermarkets. And instead of having to send a truck to all of those, we can collect the batteries, take them back to our hub, and then they're picked up and shipped onwards from there. So what does the model look like, you know, for creating a better city with using micro hubs? Well, all of our services operate best with a 3-mile radius from our hub. And in small cities, you are only going to need probably one hub to service the whole of the city centre. But what we're finding in larger cities is that what we need to do is build out a mesh network of hubs. And so in places like London, that's what we're doing. And these would have electric van trunking between them. And what this means is we're highly attractive for, you know, big retailers or parcel carriers that are able to have a bit of flexibility about where they ship and where they kind of inject their parcels into which hub, which is closest to their distribution centre. It also creates a bit of resilience in the service where you're able to, you know, stretch the area that perhaps one hub is covering in terms of kind of any capacity shortfalls. And it means that more consolidation can happen and take place. This is just to give you a little look inside what does a Zedify micro hub look like. There's all the very neatly aligned parcels getting lined up and sorted to get loaded onto one of the trikes there. And then just an overview of the kinds of vehicles that we have in our fleet. It's 95% cargo bikes, trikes or quads that we use in our fleet. But the backbone really are, I guess, these larger trikes and quads. And for Zedify's model, that works really well because it's about, you know, the maximum amount of consolidation, mixing, you know, veg box type deliveries, flower boxes, clothing, that kind of thing. You can do and visit, you know, areas multiple times a day, and being able to deliver a great service there. Here, just to give you a sense of the kind of businesses that we work with. So we work with some big parcel carriers, and we often work with local authorities. So in Waltham Forest, where they have a really successful and well-known cycle-friendly neighbourhood with lots of amazing measures in place, we work with the local authority there to run a cargo bike delivery service for businesses locally, and it's run in partnership. It's called Zed, and it's been really, really successful. We work with subscription companies like Freddy's Flowers who want to use cargo bikes. They do some of their own cargo bike deliveries as well in London, but in other cities we deliver for them. And we work with, we even in Bristol, we work with Voy, the scooter company, and we do rebalancing for them. And then Valpak, who are a battery recycler. So just to give you a sense of the kind of businesses that this model works really well for. We are in, we have 10 depots currently in 9 cities across the UK. So it's one of the largest fleets of light electric vehicles. We've also got a trusted carrier partners for our national delivery network. So that's where we're doing the first mile collection and then passing off the package to somebody else to do that delivery across the UK. It means that some of our businesses that want to deliver stuff within the city, but they also want to deliver elsewhere, they've got that one-stop shop, which works really well. As Alex mentioned, it's really exciting. We've got some funding that came in at the beginning of this year, which is going to help us to roll out our service, and we're looking to be in 45 cities in the next 4 to 5 years. Very exciting. And just finally, to talk about some of the kind of measurable impacts, I think, you know, what we're seeing really is very exciting. Cargo bikes 10 years ago, I'm told, I wasn't in the sector then, were seen as an oddity, maybe a nice to have, something that you know, was a bit of fun really, or something that, you know, wasn't going to be scalable. But now you are seeing you know, big name parcel carriers starting to see this as a serious solution for delivering in cities. And that's about some of the, you know, regulatory change you're seeing on clean air zones and that kind of thing. But it's also about the efficiencies and the amazing service that you're able to get if you switch to cargo bikes. So we're really excited about the change. We're really, really encouraged by the amount of take up that we're getting and innovators that we're seeing all across the UK. And yeah, can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next year. Thank you. That's me. And yeah, any questions? Happy to talk.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Harry. Really fascinating presentation. Really awesome to see the network as it's developing as well. We do have a fair few questions for our panelists in this session. I actually first want to open up the floor to Aaron Fleming from the previous session, who has a question for Far Out. Aaron, you there?
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Go ahead.
Good, good. So my question for Far Out is, what's the attitude in Scotland to what you guys are doing? I've got friends in Glasgow, and I'm sure they'd love to use a service like yours, but yeah, I mean, obviously down here we don't hear much about what the scene is up there, so I'd be interested to know.
Do you mean just from kind of customers in general, or
customers and the general attitude of the city towards what you're doing?
Yeah. It's pretty good in general. We get a lot of vocal support that is often you know, not necessarily supported with action. I don't know if that's the case elsewhere. We get a lot of positive support from sort of big business and local authority that potentially we would like to see a little more action in you know, giving us large volumes of deliveries, allowing us to tender for smaller parts of national logistics tenders, things like that, you know, healthcare and things in that area. There's definitely a lot of people within the Scottish Government and Edinburgh Council who are super interested and invested. You know, there's with the cycle infrastructure in Edinburgh at the moment, there's a huge advertising campaign happening to promote an extension to it, and on that it's got, you know, 3 different kinds of bikes, and a cargo bike is one of those, and it's on hundreds of bus stops right now. So there's definitely from top down, there seems to be quite a lot of support, and from bottom up, and there's just, we exist in this bit in the middle where we could use a little more volume really, and yeah, I think that's probably meets most people's experience.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Yeah,
awesome. Our next question we're going to go for is directed at Chris. Chris, yeah, I believe you're still on with us. The question is, do Pedal Me train other operators or riders? So I guess the real question is the training certification transferable between what you're doing over at Pedal Me to, for example, if it wants to move over to some other operator?
I mean, once you've got the training, you've got the training. Whether or not that training is relevant to another operator depends entirely on their model. If you're pootling around in an EAV all day, well, you're just not going to need what we do. Is it available to other logistics operators directly? Yes and no. So I guess, like, for instance, if you are a plant hire company with a fleet of vans and you want to dip your toes in the water, or you would want to move over, then we offer an ecosystem. So we'll train, and then we'll assess, and then we'll reassess every year or something, so that you can keep the skills in, and that you've got someone who's kind of offering that kind of surrogacy. In theory, that's what our setup is set up to offer. For other logistics operators, because they're not offering a service to the wider public, they're offering a service specifically to their customers. So they're already paying for, they're offering the free delivery thing that Alex was talking about earlier, because their logistics is paid for in the cost of their service, in the cost of their product. So I'm hiring this thing, I need it got to me. That's covered in the price they're paying for that. Another logistics operator is our direct competitor. So do we want to massively improve their riders? Yes, if the price is right, absolutely.
We'll make the pitch.
And so, a rider's in another city or something, if they need that. But the thing is, it comes down to your use case. Our training is about moving 150 kilos and making sure that you can operate a service that removes a van. So you come to me with your ambition, and then I can tell you what elements of our training are necessary or not. I would like to see a world in which the way that we see the road being used is improved. We're all focusing on vehicles and how to load them, and which vehicle is the right one, but we're not really focusing on the thing that is actually really quite important, which is the acceptance of that vehicle within the social space. And that's kind of something that I'd really like to see a focus on. We develop it internally, and if the state decides that that's something that's as valid as a driving license or the driver CPC for HGVs, which it should be because it's a professional industry, then yeah, sure, we've got the knowledge that can help roll that out. I would be keen to see our training approach everywhere.
Yeah. It would be good, and it's something that we work a lot here at ECF, which is about how to share public space.
Yeah,
and it fits into many wider threads there.
The issue you have really, and I'll just finish this the overall point with this one, is that once you have got a rider on your vehicle, there's very little checking or feedback on what that operator does. They will park their four-wheeled vehicle on the pavement. They will just ride in a straight line and completely ignore everything around them, and they will cut up the inside in really risky areas without any thought, because they've got their autonomy, and really, who cares? That's what we're trying to address.
And then that's a common thing with non-cycle logistics operators as well. So
that's humans. That is humans.
Yeah. The next question is going to be for I think it's really for Alex. It was to do with you talking about businesses really wanting to pay a premium for your service. I'm wondering personally, do you think that more consumers would do the same if that choice was more widely available? If it was like an option for your delivery to be delivered by a cargo bike?
Yeah, I really think a lot of people would. I mean, so our core customer is independent local business, and their core customer is somebody who's choosing to shop at independent local business. And I really do think that's like the captive audience for what we're doing in terms of normalization and like supporting services like ours. It's obviously not where the volume is, but in terms of affecting the most people, or affecting people quickly, who will then promote us for us. I think that's exactly who we want to be targeting. And a couple of the bookshops we work with have added it as because they used to offer free delivery to compete with Amazon. They then added a button to their web shop offering like subsidized delivery, and that was before they started using us. So they said, right, we've been subsidizing your delivery for years, please will you contribute a little bit? And they were really surprised to find that their customers did choose to do that, even when it was optional. And so then when they started working with us, the delivered by bike was an additional charge on top of that. And again, it's most of their deliveries now, anything going locally. people are paying that surcharge. And obviously, I think that's quite a small example. And I do obviously have lots of conversations where they say, no, it's too expensive, go away. But yeah, I've seen some anecdotal evidence of it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was more, the benefits not just being carbon emission savings, but worker welfare more widely known what the situation is like within the logistics industry, you probably find more people would be willing to. The next question I've got is actually I've got two for you, Harry. The first one is, and it's actually related to what we just talked about in terms of Amazon and things. The question comes from Andrea. It's, do you use the micro consolidation hubs for bigger customers like FedEx and Amazon? Obviously, I saw FedEx was listed on the screen. The question is really, does that plug into that system easily? What are the kind of problems or setbacks that they might have when it comes to working with Zedify?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. The micro hubs are where all the consolidation happens. So I think it's attractive for people like FedEx and other parcel carriers that we work with, because they maybe don't have the same sort of infrastructure, so they're able to drop easily to that edge of city hub. So yeah, you need the space to be able to do that, and that they bring in the loads, and then it's consolidated with all of that other work, and that's where you get the real kind of efficiencies and able to offer those kind of pricings, I guess, that people are looking for.
And the next question was a much simpler one, which is, does Zedify have any plans to set up in Ireland?
That's a good question. Watch this space.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk offline if they want to get in contact. Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm just now going to have a quick scan through. There was one other one that came up, which I'm not sure if any of you are going to be able to answer, but it's open to everybody who wants to pitch in. It was asking for recommendations for software for managing dispatches. So clearly someone's looking to set up something. Does anyone have any answers to that? I'm not sure who to direct it at, really.
I could be wrong, but I think all three of us are using proprietary software.
Mm-hmm. I thought it might be that case. In that case, no, it's a closely guarded secret. You're going to have to set up your own or buy it from somebody else. That's completely understandable. I think that's it for the questions that I've been able to see, unless anyone wants to chuck one in last minute. We've got some compliments going, especially towards Chris on the training. So it's good to see. It would be good to see it more widespread. I think, sometimes it's weird to think that people get a driver's license and then that's it. They're able to do whatever they want on the road. And then there's all this stuff about, cycle safety, helmets, reflective gear, lights, which, some of it's common sense and some of it's just overkill. So no, definitely would be nice to see a more professionalized sort of approach to training, not just for psychologistics, but for all road users. I think that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much, Harry, Chris, Alex. It's been really great to have you here in this final session. Thank you as well to all our other panelists who I hope are still around and have stayed through the bitter end. It's been a longer webinar, so everybody who has stayed here, I really appreciate the attention given to us, and I hope it's been informative. We will be sending a follow-up email, maybe not today, but beginning of next week, with links to the recordings, contact details for anybody who's speaking, who wants to share them, as well as any other interesting documentation. But for now, I think we'll close it off there. Thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend, and hopefully stay in touch.